On the planet Turo, Jumba the scientist was in trouble. He stood in front of the Grand Councilwoman, the most important alien on the whole planet. "We believe that you have made a new kind of life," she said angrily. "That's not true," cried Jumba. A door behind him opened, and a little blue creature dropped out. It had big ears and lots of teeth. "Okay," the scientist said quickly, "but I only made one." "What is that thing?" asked Captain Gantu. "It looks dangerous." Jumba looked proudly at the wild little alien. "This is Experiment 626, he said. "Nothing can hurt Experiment 626, Jumba continued. "There is nothing stronger or faster. He is the perfect weapon, and he only wants one thing: to destroy everything." The Grand Councilwoman turned to Gantu. "This is a terrible crime, and Jumba must go to prison for it," she said. She looked at Experiment 626. "We cannot let his creature hurt anyone. Take it to a planet that has no other life." Captain Gantu took the little creature to his spaceship. "You won't escape from this," Gantu said. But Jumba's description of Experiment 626 was right. The little blue creature was fast and strong enough to escape. In a few minutes, he was free. When he found a little police spaceship, Experiment 626 did not stop to think. He jumped into the ship and flew out into space. "He's escaping!" shouted Gantu. "Get him!" Lots of police ships followed, but they could not catch Experiment 626. His ship shot into deep space. Back on his ship, Gantu could only watch the escape. "Get the Grand Councilwoman on the radio," he said angrily. The Councilwoman was angry too. "Where did Experiment 626 go?" One of the aliens checked her computer screen. "To a little planet," she said. "Its name is Earth." The Grand Councilwoman's first idea was to destroy the whole planet. But there was a problem. There was life on Earth. "Bring me someone who knows about this planet," said the Councilwoman. Minutes later, Pleakley arrived. Earth was his favorite planet, and he knew all about it. "The life there isn't very smart, but it's very interesting," Pleakley said. "Here, look at some pictures." He began to explain about life on Earth. "We have to catch Experiment 626 quietly," the Grand Councilwoman decided. "What do we know about him?" Experiment 626 had no family or friends. "We have to talk to the scientist who made him," said the Councilwoman. Jumba was not surprised when the Grand Councilwoman came to talk to him. "If you catch Experiment 626, you can leave this prison," she told the scientist. "But Jumba might put Earth in danger," cried Pleakley. "Who will watch him?" "You will, Pleakley," the Councilwoman answered. "You and Jumba will go together and catch this creature." Pleakley's one eye opened wide in surprise. On Earth, there was a little girl called Lilo. She lived on a beautiful Hawaiian island. Every day after school, she liked to swim in the ocean and feed a sandwich to her favorite fish. Lilo loved the beach and the water. They were fantastic. But Lilo's life was not always so fantastic. Perhaps that fish in the water was her friend, but Lilo had no friends at school or at the beach. She was always alone when she walked home from the beach. One afternoon, Nani, Lilo's big sister, was running home. Lilo and Nani's parents were dead, so Nani looked after her little sister. It was not always easy. Today, she had an important meeting with their social worker, but she was late. "Lilo, open this door," she shouted when she reached the house. But Lilo did not listen. She was lying on the floor and listening to sad music. Nani pushed her head through the dog door. "Listen! The social worker will be here soon. Open this door now. Lilo, if you don't open this door, I'll—" Nani looked around. A tall man in dark clothes was behind her. This was Cobra Bubbles, the social worker. "Lilo, if you don't open this door, I'll give you a big hug," said Nani quickly. Inside the house, Cobra Bubbles looked around at the messy room and the dirty dishes. He was here to learn about the two sisters. Was Nani able to look after her sister? Was Lilo safe and happy? "Do you often leave your sister at home alone?" he asked Nani. "No," cried Nani. "I just went to the store." Cobra had questions for Lilo, too. He wanted to know all about her life. Nani tried to give her little sister the right answers, but it did not help much. Before he left, Cobra told Nani, "This was not a good visit. I am coming back in 3 days. Things must be different then." When they were alone again, the two sisters fought. "Do you want them to take you away?" shouted Nani. "Go to your room." Lilo was at the top of the stairs. "I'm already in my room," she shouted, and shut the door. Later that night, Nani looked inside Lilo's room. The little girl was on her knees at the side of the bed. She did not notice Nani at the door. "I need someone to be my friend," Lilo was saying quietly. "I need someone who won't run away." When she heard these words, Nani felt sorry for her little sister. She knew that Lilo was unhappy and lonely. But maybe Nani could do something about that. Maybe Lilo needed a pet. On another part of the island, something very strange was happening that night. A little spaceship fell from the sky and hit the ground. Not many creatures could walk away from that, but the thing inside the spaceship was different. It was Experiment 626. He started to look around. He was free to follow his nature and destroy everything. Suddenly, there was a noise. Lights were coming toward him. Experiment 626 was ready to fight anything. A big truck hit the little alien. Experiment 626 could not remember anything after that. The next day, Nani and Lilo went to the dog pound to get Lilo a pet. "We're looking for a dog," Nani told the woman behind the desk. "We want a good, strong one. We want one that isn't going to die or leave." The sisters did not notice, but something was moving across the ceiling. Something blue. It was experiment 626. The little blue creature did not want to stay in this strange place. He had a whole new planet to attack and destroy. When experiment 626 left the building, there was a flash of green light. Someone was shooting at him. "It's nice to see your face again," cried a voice. Jumba. The alien scientist was here, and there was another alien with him. Quickly, experiment 626 ran back into the dog pound. Lilo was there. "Hello," she cried. "Are there any animals in here?" There were dogs there, but they were all trying to hide from experiment 626. Quickly, experiment 626 made a plan. He pulled 2 of his 6 legs into his body. Then he ran into the little girl's arms. Lilo returned to the desk with experiment 626. "I like this one," she said. "What is that thing?" asked Nani. The woman from the pound screamed. "We think that it's a dog. A truck driver brought it here last night after his truck hit it." She tried to take the strange dog back. "We have better ones." "Not better than him," said Lilo. Nani was not sure about this, but at last she agreed. Before they could take their new pet home, they had to give him a name. "I know," said Lilo. "His name is Stitch." For Lilo, it was a new beginning. She and Stitch jumped on a bike and rode away. Lilo was having a great time. She wanted to show Stitch everything. She did not know that really Stitch was looking for a way to escape. But there was one thing that the little alien was afraid of: water. And on a small island with ocean all around it, water was everywhere. Stitch knew that Jumba was following him, but the scientist could not catch Stitch when he was with the girl. At the end of the day, Lilo took Stitch to meet Nani at her work. She was a waitress in a restaurant. Lilo and Stitch sat at a table and waited. At another table, there were 2 people who looked very strange. That was because they were not people. They were Jumba and Pleakley in human clothes. Jumba grabbed Stitch, but the little alien fought back. When Nani ran over, Stitch had Pleakley's head in his mouth. Nani pulled Stitch away, but the restaurant owner was very angry. Nani lost her job. "Come on, Lilo," she said sadly. In Lilo's room that night, Stitch did not want to go to bed. He ran around the room and checked everything. He was not very careful, and he broke some of Lilo's things. "You break everything that you touch," she said. "Maybe you should try and build something." To her surprise, Stitch listened. He used some books and boxes and toy cars to make a little city on the floor. But then he began to walk through the city and destroy the buildings. He picked up a toy car and pushed it into his mouth. At last, Stitch became quiet when Lilo read a story to him. It was the story of the ugly duckling. In the first picture, the ugly duckling was crying in a dark forest. "He's sad because he's lost and alone. No one wants him," said Lilo. She pointed to the next picture. "Now he's happy because he's with his family. In a family, no one leaves you or forgets you." Stitch's dark eyes looked at the pictures. He knew that there was something important about them. He grabbed the book and took it with him to his little bed. The next day, Nani looked for a new job, but she had no luck. She and Lilo were feeling sad when Nani's friend David met them at the beach. "I know something that will make you happy," he said. He had 2 surfboards with him. "Come out on the ocean with me." A few minutes later, they were riding the waves. Lilo was on David's surfboard. Stitch rode on the back of Nani's surfboard. At first, he was not happy with water all around him, but he watched Lilo, Nani, and David. They seemed so happy. Stitch was happy too. Suddenly, 2 big hands from under the waves grabbed Stitch and pulled him under the water. It was Jumba. At last, the alien scientist had Experiment 626 in his hands. Lilo and Nani were off their surfboards. Stitch reached up to grab Lilo's hand, but Jumba pulled him down. The little blue creature fought back wildly. He escaped from Jumba and Pleakley, but he could not swim back up to the air. He was not able to breathe. Stitch was in real danger when David swam down and rescued him. Cobra Bubbles was waiting on the beach. He knew that Nani lost her job at the restaurant. He was unhappy to see Nani carrying Lilo in from the dangerous waves. "You need to think about what is best for Lilo," the social worker said sadly. "If you can't look after her, I will have to take her from you." Cobra turned and slowly walked away. David wanted to help his friends, but he did not know how. "I thought that Nani and Lilo would be okay," he said sadly. He looked at Stitch. "Then you arrived." At bedtime that night, Lilo held a photo of her family tightly. It showed both her parents when they were alive. She looked up and told Stitch, "Our family is little now. You can be part of it, but if you want to leave, you can." Strange new ideas were growing in Stitch's mind, and he did not understand them. He picked up the Ugly Duckling book and left through the window. Outside in the dark forest, he looked at the picture of the lost little duckling. He too felt lost and alone. Pleakley woke up the next morning and looked around. He was starting to hate this stupid planet, with its horrible insects and its horrible oceans. Jumba was unhappy too. It was impossible to catch Experiment 626 quietly. Suddenly, there was a sound from Pleakley's radio. "Have you caught Experiment 626 yet?" the Grand Councilwoman asked angrily on the little screen. When she learned the answer, she shouted, "You two are off the job. Captain Gantu will catch 626 now." Pleakley was sad to hear this, but not Jumba. "That means that I can catch 626 my way now," he said. Nani looked up sadly at the kitchen clock. Cobra Bubbles was coming for Lilo soon. Lilo was sad too. "Stitch left," she said. "He didn't want to stay." Nani hugged her sister. She did not want Cobra to take Lilo away. But how could she stop him? Now she did not even have a job. "Sometimes things have to change," Nani said. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door. "Nani," cried David, "I found you a job, but you must come now." Nani jumped up. "Lilo, I'm going out. Don't open the door for anyone." Stitch was still in the forest when Jumba found him. The scientist had his weapon out and ready. He was surprised when Experiment 626 did not attack him. Then he saw the book in front of the creature, with its picture of the ugly duckling and his family. "You don't have a family," Jumba said. "I made you. Your only purpose is to destroy." Stitch turned and ran. Jumba did not worry about catching Experiment 626 quietly. He ran after the little blue alien all the way to Lilo's house. Lilo was surprised to see Stitch back home. She was much more surprised when Jumba followed him inside. The scientist pointed his alien weapon at Stitch and shot a ball of green light. Stitch was too fast to hit, but Jumba did not stop. He shot again and again. Soon there were holes everywhere, in the roof and the walls. Lilo ran to the phone and called Cobra Bubbles. "Aliens are attacking my house," she said. Suddenly, Pleakley was in the house too. He pulled Lilo outside just before Jumba and Stitch destroyed the whole house. In town, Nani was feeling happy about her new job. But then a fire truck drove past her and she started to feel nervous. That truck was going toward her house. When Nani arrived, she could not believe her eyes. There was no house. Firefighters were shooting water at its remains. Cobra Bubbles was there too, and Lilo was sitting in his car. He was taking her away. "You can't take her," Nani cried. "She needs me." "Does she need this?" Cobra pointed at the house remains. "It's clear that you need her a lot more than she needs you." Lilo did not want to hear them anymore. She quietly opened the car door and ran away into the forest. She could hear the voices of Cobra and Nani behind her. "Lilo!" But she did not answer. Suddenly, Stitch jumped out from behind a tree. He held something in one paw, the photo of Lilo's family. He gave it to Lilo. "You destroyed everything," she said quietly. It was time for Stitch to tell the truth. He pushed his other pair of legs out of his body. "You're one of them?" said Lilo in surprise. "An alien?" "Go away, Stitch," said Lilo sadly. But before Stitch could do anything, there was a sound behind them. Captain Gantu from the planet Turo was here. Captain Gantu shot a net at the girl and the little blue creature. It covered them so they could not move. "Surprise!" shouted Gantu, and he laughed. This was easy. He picked up the net and began to walk toward his spaceship. An Earth girl was inside the net with Experiment 626, but that did not worry Gantu. He planned to take them both back to Turo. Nani was still looking for her sister. "Lilo, where are you?" she cried. Something walked by and Nani screamed. It was Gantu. The big alien did not even look at her. He just walked to his spaceship and dropped Lilo and Stitch into a glass container on the ship's side. "You're all ready for the trip," he said to them. Gantu climbed into the spaceship and it began to move up into the sky. Nani just stood and watched. Lilo was on that ship, but Nani could do nothing to help her. But no container could hold Experiment 626. Stitch was able to push his body through a narrow space between the container and the side of the ship. He was free. But there was no time to help Lilo. The spaceship shot into the sky and Stitch fell to the ground. Nani was waiting for him. She had a big stick in her hands and she hit Stitch with it. "Talk," she shouted. "I know that you're not a dog. I know that you can talk." Stitch got to his feet. "Okay, okay," he said. Before Stitch could say more, a ball of green light knocked him over again. Jumba and Pleakley jumped out of the forest, and the big scientist grabbed Stitch. "We've got you," cried Pleakley. At last they could leave this planet. But then they saw Nani. "Where's Lilo?" she asked them. Jumba spoke slowly. "Sorry, we do not know this Lilo person." "Lilo!" shouted Nani. "She's a little girl, and I want her back." "We can't do that," explained Pleakley politely. Nani fell to her knees and started to cry. Stitch moved in front of Nani. "Family," he said slowly. "In a family, no one leaves you or forgets you." Stitch turned to Jumba and spoke in the scientist's language. "What?" shouted Jumba. "After all this trouble? You want me to help you?" "Yes," said Stitch. Experiment 626 was clearly different now. "Okay," Jumba said. "We'll help." "What are we doing?" Pleakley cried in surprise. "We're rescuing the girl," said Jumba. Minutes later, they were all flying in Jumba and Pleakley's spaceship. Now they just had to find Gantu's spaceship. Soon they found Gantu's ship. It was time for Stitch to do something. He was more than Experiment 626 now. His purpose in life was more than to destroy. But he was still good at destroying things. Stitch jumped onto Gantu's ship and began to destroy it. He pulled Gantu through the front window and threw the alien off his ship and onto the wing of Jumba's ship. Next, Stitch broke open the glass container. "You came back," said Lilo. "In a family, nobody leaves you," said Stitch. He jumped back to Jumba's ship with Lilo in his arms. Jumba's ship could not fly far with Gantu on it. The scientist flew the ship down to the water near the island. Nani's friend David was there on his surfboard. "David!" shouted Lilo from the ship. "Can you take us to the beach?" David hid his surprise at the big spaceship and all the aliens on it. "Okay," he answered, "but I can't take everybody at the same time." He took Lilo and Stitch first. "So you're an alien from space?" he asked Stitch with a smile. On the beach, the Grand Councilwoman was waiting. "Put Experiment 626 on the ship," she shouted to her police robots. "Not Experiment 626, said a voice. "My name is Stitch." The Grand Councilwoman stopped. "Can Stitch say goodbye?" asked Stitch. He went and hugged Lilo. The Grand Councilwoman understood. Experiment 626 was different. He had a family who loved him. She changed her mind. Stitch can stay here with his family. It was a strange family, with Lilo, Nani and David, Cobra, and even Jumba and Pleakley. But it was a happy one.